Hello, YouTubers. Welcome to Level-Headed News. I'm your host, Brenda. And boy, do I have news for you. There's a bunch of articles here that I'm going to bring you today, and we'll just jump right in them. The first one is off of Fox13Memphis.com, and it is entitled Arrests Made During Arkansas Diamond Pipeline Protest. And the article reads like this. The pipeline's crude oil will end up at Memphis Valero Refinery after running 440 miles, starting in Oklahoma and running through Arkansas. In quiet Forest City, Arkansas, the Diamond Pipeline construction site was the site of some tension. Two protesters snuck into the site and locked themselves under one of the track hose. After being asked to leave and refusing, they were arrested and charged with criminal trespassing. We asked them to move, but they wouldn't, so we placed them under arrest, said Gene Wingo, chief deputy with the St. Francis County Sheriff's Department. Amber Stolbarger and Frank Klein were both booked into the county jail, posted their $1,000 bonds, and were given citations. That, as Monday was the unofficial start of Arkansas's Rising, a group aimed at pipeline, at least temporarily. We are hoping that we can get them to take on full environmental impact statements here, said Scott Banbury, who works with the Tennessee Sierra Club. The Diamond Pipeline LLC emailed Fox 13 the statement regarding the protest, and it read, we respect the rights of individuals to voice their opinion regarding this project, but we are opposed to actions that break the law and threaten the safety of our workers, the public, or the job site. In these situations, we will work with area law enforcement to address the issue. Scott Banbury opposes the pipeline and believes the oil and gas industry is overbuilding pipelines. Rather than slow down the production of its conservative, they're moving as quickly as they can to get it into international markets, said Banbury. The faster we burn the stuff, the faster we produce it, the more damage we are doing to ourselves in terms of climate change, but also the longer we are putting off the investments we need to make in solar, wind, and energy conservation. They were just getting started, and that they were going to come back, said Deputy Chief Wingo. If they come back, we'll arrest them. That's the bottom line. And they were told that. And there is a link you can click on in this article to learn more about the Diamond Pipeline if you'd like to check that out. All of the URLs, of course, are in the description of my videos, so you can get whatever research you need to. The next article that I have for you is off of MSNBC. No, I'll take that back. It's off of Western Journalism, and it is entitled MSNBC Host Called Out for Reporting Fake News. And waiting for the hamster to catch up to me here and get it loaded. Here we go. It says one of the hottest topics in the media. Well, I thought I had it. Here, I had it and then I lost it. One of the hottest topics in regards to the media the past few weeks has been the subject of fake news. The subject of fake news is usually alleged by people on the left in regards to news stories by a right-leaning media source. Of course, the left has plenty of examples of fake news to make fun of. For example, MSNBC's Stephanie Ruhle reported Friday that the Fox News Network gathered at President-elect Donald Trump's newest hotel located in Washington, D.C. for its annual Christmas party. Spokesperson for the Fox News said that the organization has not yet had its Christmas party. They also added the party was never scheduled for the Trump Hotel, but rather the Liaison, Capitol Hill. Ruhle's comments were made during a discussion with Republican strategist Brad Todd at the Democratic strategist Liz Smith pertaining to the president-elect's tendency to pay company expenses with campaign funds. Ruhle asked if the tendencies will continue or constitute a conflict of interest once Trump enters the White House. Todd reminded Ruhle that by law, Trump was required to reimburse his company for expenses federal election law violations. Ruhle agreed, but asked if it was necessary for Trump to stay only at Trump hotels and eat only Trump restaurants. Rule later issued an apology for her erroneous remarks concerning the Fox News and the Trump Hotel. This is some serious business that I need to share, said Rule. I need to apologize to the audience. In a segment, I stated the Fox network had held their holiday party at Trump's D.C. hotel. I was wrong. Neither Fox network nor an affiliate held any party at Trump's Washington hotel. I stand corrected. I apologize for the error. I'm truly, truly sorry. The mistake. And of course, I wish all my friends over at Fox very happy holiday, no matter where you have your party. While Fox News will not be celebrating at the Trump International Hotel, the RNC has confirmed it plans to hold its Christmas party at the recently opened luxury hotel. Sources for RNC say the celebration will be a more exclusive and celebratory affair this year, owing to the unexpected election victories enjoyed by the party this November. The next article that I have for you is off of 6abc.com, and it says, Judge rejects Green Party's Pennsylvania recount case. A federal judge on Monday issued a stinging rejection of Green Party-backed request in a recount paper ballot in Pennsylvania's presidential election, won narrowly by Republican Donald Trump, and scanned some counties' election systems for signs of hacking. In this 31-page decision, the U.S. Judge Paul Diamond said that there was at least 6 grounds that required him to reject the Green Party's lawsuit, which had been opposed by Trump, the Pennsylvania Republican Party, and the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office. The Green Party has been successful in at least getting statewide recounts started in Wisconsin and Michigan, but has failed to get statewide recount begun or ordered in Pennsylvania. The suspicion of a hacked Pennsylvania election borders on the irrational, while granting the Green Party's recount bid could ensure that no Pennsylvania vote count given Tuesday, a federal deadline to certify the vote for the Electoral College, wrote Diamond, an appointee of former President George W. Bush, a Republican. More importantly, there's no credible evidence that any hack occurred, and compelling evidence that Pennsylvania's voting system was not in any way compromised, Diamond wrote. He also said the lawsuit suffered from a lack of standing, potentially the lack of federal jurisdiction, and the unexplained, highly prejudicial wait before filing last week's lawsuit 4 weeks after the November 8th election. The decision was the Green Party's latest roadblock in Pennsylvania after hitting numerous walls in county and state courts. Green Party-backed lawyers argue that it was possible that the paperless machines make it a prime target. Or, I'm sorry, let me back up on that. Green Party-backed lawyers argue that it was possible that computer hackers changed the election outcome and that Pennsylvania's heavy use of paperless machines make it a prime target. Green Party presidential candidate Jill Stein also contended that Pennsylvania has erected unconstitutional barriers to voters seeking a recount. A lawyer for the Green Party said Monday they were disappointed and unable to immediately say whether or not they'd appeal. But one thing is clear, said the lawyer, Eileen Mazel. The Pennsylvania election system is not fair to voters, and voters don't know if their votes counted, and that's a very large problem. A broader effort by Stein to recount votes in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, 3 states with a history of supporting Democrats that were narrowly won by Trump over Democrat Hillary Clinton. Stein captured about 1% of the vote or less in each of. In Pennsylvania, Trump beat Clinton about 44,000 votes out of 6 million cast. The Wisconsin count was expected to conclude Monday with about 95% of the votes recounted as of Sunday. Clinton had gained 25 votes on Trump, but still trailed by about 22,000 votes out of nearly 3 million cast in Wisconsin. In Michigan's recount last week after 3 days, Trump won Michigan by fewer than 11,000 votes out of nearly 4.8 million. The next article that I have for you is off of Liberty Writers News, and it's called Donald Trump Just Exposed CNN in a Massive Scandal. Ooh, man, Donald Trump is on fire this week, and now he's taking it to a whole different level. Just today, Trump outed CNN for creating a sick fake news story claiming he would still work with The Apprentice while he is in office. According to a report by CNN, Trump had been planning on staying on as executive producer and even showing up on the series from time to time while in office. However, Trump is too worried about saving our country to work on some dumb TV show. However, he did take the time to expose CNN's lies with two tweets that have been taking the internet by storm. They are. One says, reports by CNN that I will be working on The Apprentice during my presidency, even part-time, are ridiculous and untrue. Fake news. And the next one says, I have nothing to do with The Apprentice except for the fact that I conceived it with Mark B, and I have a big stake in it. We'll devote zero time. The rumors all started when Kellyanne Conway came on a CNN show where talked about Obama's golf habit and joked that maybe Trump could do the same thing but with Celebrity Apprentice instead of golfing. Perhaps he will consider staying on with the new Celebrity Apprentice. Were we so concerned about the hours and hours spent on the golf course of the current president? See, a joke, of course. CNN decided to run it as a story, saying Trump would definitely still be a presence on the show even while in office. Crazy. The mainstream media, MSM, are a bunch of liars and bullies. The biggest difference between them and the rest of us is that at least us smaller guys admit to being conservative or liberal. The MSM hides behind claims of being fair and unbiased while pushing lies and propaganda down our throats. So thank you, Donald Trump, for standing up to those lying bullies and helping to make us great again. The next article that I have for you is also off of Liberty Writers News, and it's called Donald Trump Just Made a Huge Announcement About the 2020 Election. Questions all of us have been asking ever since Trump beat Hillary to become president of the U.S. Will he run again in 2020? Well, now we know that the answer is yes. Donald Trump is in the middle of his first thank you tour, and today it took him to Louisiana. Trump decided to make light of the fact that for the first time, he's not trying to get any votes before he dropped his bombshell plan to run for re-election. Says, I don't need your vote. Can you imagine that? 4 years, I'll need your vote. Now, he didn't go into any real detail besides that, but that is just Donald Trump for you. He never reveals his strategy. Instead, he talked about what is important to him right now. Things like bringing back jobs, securing our borders, and creating new opportunities for Black communities to succeed. Of course, these rallies are more than they seem. In reality, Trump is very, very close to being able to secure his cabinet and judges without any Democratic interference. In fact, all he really needs now is for Louisiana Senator John Kennedy to win his race on Saturday. So let's give Donald Trump and America a hand at taking our country back and share this out to every person. And so in Louisiana knows how important it is to vote. Okay, the next one we have is off of BizPac Review, and it says, forget the interference. Here's why Russian President Putin wanted Trump, not Clinton. The media world is all a Twitter over the hush-hush report that CIA has determined that Russia was trying to help Donald Trump become president by intervening in the 2016 election. Who knows at this time whether Russia intervened or not? If they did, you can be certain it didn't happen without Russian President Putin knowing about it. So it leaves us with the question of why prefer Donald over Hillary. Before we go there, let's clarify it's nothing new in the world of diplomacy for a nation to get involved in another nation's elections. It happens all the time. Obama has a history of trying to direct outcomes of foreign elections, two recent examples being Brexit and the 2014 Scottish referendum. As Secretary of State, Clinton stuck her fingers in the elections in Haiti and Honduras. Now her meddling has boomeranged on her. What goes around comes around. Now let's look at the multiple reasons why Russian chief would prefer Donald. For starters, every sane leader in the globe wanted Trump, not just Putin. And Putin knows firsthand that Clinton, when Secretary of State, worked for a regime change in Russia. She wanted him gone, and Putin believes that Clinton pushed for the mass public protests against him in 2011 when his enemies accused him of rigging the Russian elections. Politico reported earlier this year that Putin admired Trump because he is pragmatic, flexible in his principles, concerned with power, and is extremely cynical, which makes Trump easier to reach agreements and understandings with. With Trump, a crackerjack businessman accustomed to the deal, everything would be on the table for discussion and negotiation. Two cynics can always find a common tongue. Putin sees Trump as a stalwart fighter against terrorism, but Putin knows Obama has never seriously committed to the fight and is probably clueless about how to fight effectively against what Obama considers to be a JV team. Putin believes Clinton is a shipmate in the same naive boat as Obama, both believing it's okay if poorly vetted Muslim immigrants pour onto U.S. soil. On Friday, the Russian foreign minister told reporters in Hamburg that Trump's commitment to fighting terrorism makes him a better ally in fighting terrorism than Barack Obama, Newsmax reported. Another reason Putin might consider it smart to prefer Trump is because China has gone into overdrive to flex their military and economic muscle, and it might be wise for both Russia and America to become better friends to stand in the way of increased Chinese attempts at hegemony. Putin accepts Trump's pledge to ease tensions between the U.S. and Russia. He believes he can get a fresh start with Trump, but that relations between Russia and America might go sour under Clinton. Finally, I submit that Putin likes Trump because he knows Trump won't suck up to the United Nations like Obama and the left have done for 8 years. Putin privately rejects UN policies on human rights and international judicial tribunals and inwardly understands how worthless the UN is. So now we are told the wascally Russians caused Clinton to lose. The American people, not Putin, won this election and defeated Clinton. But when all else has failed for the leftists and their captive media minions, why not blame Russia for the Clinton shellacking? The next article I have is off of BizPac Review, and it is entitled FBI Disagrees with CIA on Russian Influence in the Presidential Election. The FBI did not corroborate the CIA's claim that Russia had a hand in the election of President-elect Donald Trump in a meeting with lawmakers last week. A senior FBI counterintelligence official met with Republican and Democrat members of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence in order to give the Bureau's view of a recent CIA report. The official did not concur with the CIA, frustrating Democrats. The CIA believes Russia quite clearly intended to send Trump to the White House. The claim is a bold one concern Democrats and some Republicans who are worried about Trump's desire to mend relations with a increasingly aggressive Russia. The CIA report was direct and bold and unqualified, one of the officials at the meeting told the Washington Post on Saturday. FBI official was much less convinced of the claims, providing fuzzy and ambiguous remarks. The different conclusions reached by the two intelligence agencies is a reflection of their different institutional styles. CIA officials often used past behavior and analysis based on gathered intelligence to advise leaders, whereas the FBI comes from a more legalistic background, which relies on hard evidence to make a case. The White House announced on Friday that President Barack Obama ordered a full investigation into the allegations against the Kremlin. Obama wants the investigation to be completed before he leaves office in late January and intends to declassify as much of it as possible. Legislators want to accompany the report with congressional investigation. Only in this way can the American people know the extent of the Russian interference, and we can attempt to isolate ourselves against continued meddling in our elections, Representative Adam Schiff, the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, told the Washington Post. Representative Devin Nunes, the chairman of the committee, sided with the FBI's assessment. There is no clear evidence, even now, he told the Post. There's a lot of innuendo, lots of circumstantial evidence. That's it. The next article I have is also off of BizPac Review, and it is entitled, Now CIA Vets Are Warning Against Rush to Judgment on Potential Russian Hacking. CIA veterans say the public shouldn't rush into judgment that Russia intervened to get Donald Trump elected president. The secret CIA meeting concluded that Russia had plotted to put Trump in office, an anonymous source told the Washington Post. The source did not provide details backing up the alleged CIA conclusion, but anti-Trumpers have cited the WAPO story to delegitimize the billionaire's presidency. The former top CIA agents urged caution against jumping to conclusions. Natabakos, a former senior CIA counterterrorism officer, told Newsweek. I'm not saying that I don't think Russia did this. My main concern is that we will rush to judgment. The analysis needs to be cohesive and done the right way. Another former senior CIA agent who spoke on condition of anonymity is skeptical of reports that the CIA knows for sure that the Russians had waged a secret hacking campaign to tip the scales in Trump's favor. This is something that has obviously been politicized, he noted. Aside from the fact that there is no way to be 100% certain that the Kremlin had intervened in the election, the U.S. would need a mole inside the Russian government with close ties to Vladimir Putin to accurately impugn motive. The former CIA bigwig said you have to make a lot of assumptions before drawing such a conclusion, he explained. Let's assume that the agency was able to pinpoint Russian hackers as those responsible for stealing the emails. And let's also assume those Russian hackers were working for Russian intelligence. Okay, then let's assume there is solid proof that Russian intelligence directed hackers pass the information to WikiLeaks and Assange. Even if all that is true, how would the CIA determine the Russian motivation for passing the information? That would presumably require a human agent behind the curtain with certain knowledge of Putin's thinking and intentions. A top FBI counterintelligence official also said the evidence supporting the CIA's conclusion is ambiguous and fuzzy. If there were credible evidence that if there were credible evidence that Russia had interfered with the actual vote count, that would be cause for alarm. But in this case, Hillary Clinton shills aren't even saying that because they can't. They're saying that Russia intervened by releasing embarrassing internal emails via WikiLeaks that made Clinton and her aides look ridiculous, hypocritical, and disdainful of American voters. Most people on social media agree that if Russia had intervened in a U.S. election, that is unacceptable. However, others dismiss the latest Washington Post report as yet another fake news story pushed by mainstream media to blame Hillary's loss on anything but her horrible, scandal-plagued candidacy. And see, there's some tweets here in this if you want to pull it up and take a look at them. And then it goes on and says, Trump responded to Russian hacking rumors by saying liberal mainstream media had pushed fake news stories in the past, so they're hardly credible sources now. These are the same people that said Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. The next article that I have is off of Liberty Writers News, and it says, look what Trump just did that seconds ago that makes Obama look like a giant baby. Trump just met with the victims of ISIS-inspired attack at Ohio State University. Obama didn't do anything. Trump on OSU victims and first responders. He says, these were really brave people, amazing people. The police and first responders were incredible. This is because Trump is amazing and works his ass off to make America great again. Trump is going to make an amazing president. Obama didn't do anything about the attack and has just been talking about how fake news ruined the election. Obama is a disgrace, though. Police across America are sad that Obama has been such a bad president and has basically neglected our first responders. That's why we need to share this. The next article is off of teaparty.org, and it is entitled, well, we'll get the ad to shut down here. There we go. It is entitled Obama Proclamation. Americans should stop speaking English for a nasty reason. The Obama administration has always been against everything that America holds dear, including our language. says forcing employees to speak English violates the Civil Rights Act. This amounts to absurdity, considering you can require an employee to speak a second language in order to be employed at your company, but somehow you can't force them to speak English. Employers have the right to turn down applicants who can't or won't speak English, which makes sense. How are you supposed to hire someone you can't understand? How's he or she going to follow directions? But once you hire an employee who can speak English, Obama's trying to argue that you can't make them use the language in the workplace. This will instill chaos because if you have two employees who speak a language you don't, and they decide to chit-chat when they're supposed to be working, what can you legally say to them? They could just argue they're talking about work, and then it seems as though you have no recourse. In another troubling example, what if one employee decides to speak their native tongue to your customers? Does that mean you can't supervise your employee's conversation with customers? If so, you wouldn't be able to tell if they're following your instructions or treating customers with respect. According to Judicial Watch, Obama's administration is called requiring English only in the workplace national origin discrimination. Although the U.S. does not have official language, the majority of people in its borders speak English and have for a long time. But now, with so many people who speak English as a second language, the Obama administration wants to make sure that all Americans are punished for national origin discrimination, as Obama sees it, is no longer about making sure employees refuse to hire people based on their inability to speak English, but now include rules for a workplace to make sure employees can speak whatever language they want. If this sounds absurd, remember that there's already been widespread encroachment into the rights of companies to set the standards for their workplaces. One store had a huge lawsuit because they did not allow head attire in the workplace and refused to change the policy for an employee who was a Muslim woman. So, of course, this Muslim woman got a settlement of $525 million when she could have just easily gone to work or somewhere else or taken off her headscarf while at work. Luckily, Obama's on his way out, and Donald Trump is the next president. Hopefully, with him, this madness will cease to exist. The next article that I have is off of commonsenseshow.com with Dave Hodges, and it says nationalism, the new civil war. I have delayed writing this piece for 2 days. The delay was not caused by my lack of confidence in my ability to connect the dots of America's impending doom. My hesitation was due to the fact that the incoming scenario is so devastating to our country, and I find the material to be so emotionally unnerving. Therefore, I'm issuing a viewer discretion warning related to this two-part series. The motivation to attack Trump and nationalist movement. All wars and revolutions first start in the mind, and from this perspective, America is already embroiled in a civil war. The Civil War can be accurately characterized as the globalists versus the nationalists. Before these bipolar opposites related to governance are analyzed, let's first take a look at the primary directive of the globalists because they are the least understood and public. The New World Order seeks to enslave humanity in the following manner. Number one, the evisceration of all national boundaries and native cultures to make it easier to impose the globalist will upon the people. The refugee resettlement program is a prime example of this global thinking. Trump and his followers are a threat to this version of global agenda where immigration is controlled by national authorities instead of being ignored by the executive branch of government. If Trump is able to establish national control of the borders, globalism takes a big step backward. Number two, the establishment of autocratic global governance is key to the master plan for a new world order. The free trade agreement, such as NAFTA, CAFTA, TPP, are cornerstones to destroy national boundaries, the political sovereignty, the national economies in order to achieve their global governance goals. The notion of tariffs has become antiquated. National governments no longer exist to protect the people. They exist to protect and maximize corporate profits. The wholesale relocation of businesses overseas in search of cheap third world labor has replaced mercantilism as a primary system of economics. This laissez-faire approach to economics wrestles all political authority away from nations' political structure and replaces it with global and corporate governance. Nations will eventually die, as will the civil liberties of each country, such as the United States. Under this system, the people become the property of the fascist corporate state, and these individuals will be bent to the will of the globalists. Therefore, the modern nations, such as the United States, with its constitutional republic, must be totally and utterly destroyed. With Trump's proposal to impose a 35% tax on all imports in order to save American jobs spits in the face of globalism. Does anyone believe that the New World Order is going to respect the rule of law and comply with the express will of the people who elected Donald Trump? Of course not. And that's why we are in a state of war. The establishment of the New World Order and the threat that Donald Trump and his followers pose cannot be accurately portrayed in the typical left-right paradigm. It can only be portrayed as globalist versus nationalist agenda. The fake news paradigm. The designation of fake news, or what Congress is calling it, foreign propaganda, is typical of this globalist thinking. All loyalty is owed to the corporate globalist governance, and any nationalist government is viewed as not only adequated but treasonous and will eventually be dealt with in the same manner that President Lincoln dealt with the South when they attempted to withdraw from the Union. Any website or radio show that professes belief in constitutional ideas and Christian principles is a traitor to the cause of globalism. Therefore, when the CSS expresses support for the Bill of Rights, I am committing an act of terrorism against the new global state that has hijacked our government. The historical significance of the Trump movement. The survival of all nation states on its last legs, the enemy is not within the gates. The globalist enemy has seized control over all of our institutions and have destroyed our cornerstone institutions such as education and Christian church. On Sunday, when Trump said he wanted to restore prayer in school, it is clear to me that he has an appreciation for the moment that he occupies in world history. In conclusion, America is at the abysses of desolate dictatorial tyranny like the world has never seen. Americans are on the verge of not only losing their freedoms, but ultimately we will lose our soul if we do not individually and collectively change our course from a spiritual perspective. Further, globalist governance is a threat to 95% of the humans on this planet, as the globalists themselves have advocated for the elimination of all the useless eaters, all 95% of us. This is what Clinton meant when she used the word deplorables to describe the non-compliant nationalist. Does it make sense now why the globalists would promote a fourth-degree Coven, which, as the presidential candidate, due to sheer strength and nothing else, this analysis must be broken into two parts. In part two, there's a decided three-tiered approach to end the populist threat of Donald Trump. America is in the middle of this threat. The threat, if successful, will culminate with the prevention of Trump taking office or moving to more vile threat of the possible assassination of Donald Trump. It's clear from the emerging scenario, the real threat to the American people is what will follow the death of Trump's populist movement. Did anyone catch the Army-Navy football game? I don't much watch football anymore. However, the Army-Navy game has been a family tradition since I was 5 years old. I still catch part of each Army-Navy game in remembrance of my father. This past Sunday, I just happened to catch when the crowd realized that Donald Trump was in attendance and began to chant in unison, "Make America Great Again." It was enough to bring tears to one's eyes. The globalists must move swiftly against Donald Trump and the independent media in order to prevent the rising tide of nationalism. In part two of this series, I will describe the previous mentioned three-tier approach to take down America's last nationalist movement. America is indeed on life support. Can we awaken our nation from this self-induced coma? Part 2 answers these questions. Please pray for Donald Trump as well as for the nation. And so you might want to stay tuned there to the commonsenseshow.com with Dave Hodges to get part 2 of that article. The next one I have for you is thedailysheeple.com, and it is entitled Holy Blankety Blank. Watchdog discovers toy dolls are recording your conversation and uploading them to the police. And there's an editor's note that begins this. It says, Google applied for a patent for similar spy toy not that long ago. Only that one included a video as well. Makes you wonder how many objects in your house are indeed spying on you and your children. And the article goes like this. When giving gifts this holiday season, be strongly advised certain toys will upload your child's unique voice and personal information to the same military and law enforcement database, which helps authorities identify criminals. Toys which could record any conversation occurring nearby and also fish for specific information from unwitting children constitute the latest in surveillance by home appliances and gadgets known collectively as Internet of Things. And this insidious, extraneous spying has several watchdog groups sounding alarm bells in a complaint filed with Federal Trade Commission. Genius Toys' My Friend Kayla doll and IQ, that's I-QUE robot, internet-connected toys using voice recognition technology to interact with children can answer questions by converting speech to text and retrieving information from Google, Wikipedia, and Weather Underground, CNN reports. But what has Electronic Privacy Information Center, called EPIC, the Campaign for a Commercial-Free Childhood, the Center for Digital Democracy, and the Consumers Union on edge is that the toys subject young children to ongoing surveillance, the violation of privacy and consumer protection laws, and worse, the nature of the company Genius Toys employs for that purpose. Nuisance Communications, the aforementioned group, states in a complaint to the FTC, represents itself as a leader in voice technology, including speech recognition software and voice biometric solutions that allow a search of the company's 60 million enrolled voice prints for a voice match from recorded conversations to be performed within minutes. Nuance markets its technology to private and public entities and delivers its voice biometric technology to military intelligence and law enforcement agencies. Since toys and Nuance Communications unfairly and deceptively collect, use, and dispose audio files of children's voices without providing adequate notice or obtaining verified parental consent, the complaint continues. Kayla and IQ have slightly differing companion applications, but Genesis collects users' IP addresses and both require downloading and connection to the user's mobile device via Bluetooth technology, as the complaint explains. The companion application for My Friend Kayla requests permission to access the hardware, storage, microphone, Wi-Fi connections, and Bluetooth on users' devices, but fails to disclose to the user the significance of obtaining this permission. The IQ companion application also requests access to the device camera, which is not necessary to the toy's function and is not explained or justified. That Richard Mack, Nuance Vice President of the Corporate Marketing and Commissions, reassured the public the uploaded information is not sold or used for advertising or marketing purposes should be of little comfort to consumers wary of the perfidious surveillance state. Even so, Kayla comes equipped with pro-Disney marketing propaganda in reference to Disney movies and Disney theme parks. The doll says her favorite movie is Disney's The Little Mermaid, for example, which children cannot distinguish as advertising. Perhaps most notably, not to mention nefariously, CNN reports the Kayla doll also has a mobile phone app that asks children to provide their personal information like their names and their parents' names, their favorite TV show, their favorite meal, where they go to school, their favorite toy, and where they live. Epic and other watchdogs have requested the investigation into Genesis Toys and Nuance Communications by the FTC and have Kayla and IQ pulled from the store shelves. The FTC should issue a recall on the dolls and halt further sales pending the resolution of the privacy and safety risk identified in the complaint. Claire Gartland, director of Epic's Consumer Privacy Project, this is already happening in the European Union, where Dutch stores have pulled the toys from their shelves. Epic also notes this complaint is one facet of a concerted effort to ban such privacy-invasive and surveillance-laden toys from the marketplace. Last year, Senator Edward Markey and Representative Joe Barton were joined by Representative Mark Kirk and Senator Bobby Rush in introducing the Do Not Track Kids Act of 2015, H.R. 2734, to update existing children's online privacy law to include greater protection for kids. Markey penned letters to Genesis and Nuance demanding immediately compliance with stricter guidelines in the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. The Internet of Things has long been a cause for concern for privacy advocates and delight for surveillance hawks, as predictions the surveillance state will be willingly welcomed into people's homes through the convenience of interconnectedness prove true time and time again. However, while it might be one thing for hapless adults to dismissively toss privacy concerns to the wayside, to have the voice prints and information of children as young as 3 years old uploaded and likely stored by a company with military and law enforcement ties is a whole different animal. So the next article I have here is off BizPac Review, and it says, anti-religious military group goes into hysterics after Air Force rules coach can share Bible verses. The Air Force Academy has determined a football assistant coach tweeting out Bible verses from his personal account is not in violation of any law or rule, despite howling from an anti-religious military group. The Military Religious Freedom Foundation, or the MRFF, run by Mikey Westenstein, loudly complained after Steve Lubitsky shared Bible verses on Twitter, the Gazette reports. Lubitsky's Twitter bio states that he's a follower of Christ, but it also explicitly states that his tweets from the account at Coach Lubitsky are his own views. One example, Lubitsky tweeted out a Bible verse from John 3:3, and it says, "Truly, truly, I say to you, unless one is born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God." And there's another example here as well. It says a few Bible verses on an explicitly labeled private account were apparently enough to send Wisterstein into hysterics, accusing Lubitsky of Christian evangelizing via Twitter, blatantly defying Air Force regulations. Today, the Air Force Academy senior leadership clearly shows that unchecked Christian extremism is worse than ever at the Academy, especially on its football team, with the shocking discovery of what the football team's tight end coach, Steve Lubitsky, a 1992 UFAFA graduate, has been doing with his official USAFA football Twitter account, MRFF told the Gazette in a statement. Lubitsky's official Twitter feed is filled with illicit proselytizing in the name of Jesus Christ, and even includes such biblical citations juxtaposed with pictures of official football team meetings. But the Air Force doesn't seem to share Wisterstein's sentiment instead noting that Twitter accounts of coaches are personal and have no connection to the Air Force Academy's athletic department. The Academy remains committed to protecting individuals' rights to practice any religion they choose, or no religion, provided their practices do not violate policy or law or impede mission accomplishment, military readiness, unit cohesion, standards, or discipline. That statement wasn't even to satisfy Wisterstein, who told the Gazette, "This is completely and utter expletive. There will be a lot more to come on this." And the final one I have for you is, well, it's a chuckle. I think it's a chuckle. So, after all that news, I thought we needed something that we can get a chuckle out of. This is off of sfist.com, and it's called "Three-Story Tall Lamppost Collapses Onto Occupied Car, Urine to Blame." Yeah, you heard that right. It says, according to San Francisco's Public Utilities Commission, a lamppost that toppled over and nearly crushed driver had been terminally compromised by a most deadly combination of human and dog urine. KTVU reports that a 3-story tall pole snapped and fell onto an occupied car at around 6:30 p.m. Monday night, though commentator Shagopoulos says the event actually occurred Sunday at the Nob Hill intersection of Pine and Taylor. Luckily, the driver escaped injury and was just shaken up by experience, but why did the structure fail or fall in the first place? A PUC spokesperson acknowledged that the light was old, but said that it wasn't just age that felled the massive pole. It was pee, lots and lots of pee. We believe there was some contribution of dog or human urine on the base of the pole. PUC spokesman Tyrone Jew told the Crone, saying that pee accelerates the corrosion of the metal base of the street poles. The base of the bottom of the pole was rusted out, and that contributed to the pole falling down. Another PUC spokesman, Charlie Sheehan, told KTVU. This is the fourth light pole to unexpectedly collapse in San Francisco in the last 2 years, KTVU reports, saying that one fell on Greenwich Street and 2 went down on Guerrero. The latter incidents caused the PUC to replace 160 poles on Guerrero Street as a result. That's not the only area that's undergone a massive replacement, according to the Crone. The PUC just started a program where workers visually check every one of San Francisco's 2,500 light poles, causing the replacement of 100 more along San Bruno Avenue. But even then, it might be time to stop letting Rover or yourself pee on the local light poles, since it appears the PUC has yet to get their hands on DPW's pee-repelling paint. Jew has some ideas on where to go instead. We encourage people and dogs alike to do their business in other places, like a proper restroom or one of our fire hydrants, which are stronger and made of cast iron. We're sure the SFFD will thank him for that one. And all I can say on that is that now they tell me. I guess I'll have to find another hobby. I hope you have a wonderful day where you're at. Ground yourself, get a breath of fresh air. Be glad you woke up above ground. A lot of people don't.